Hi, my name is Carrie Richardson. I'm the Executive Director of Leadership Springfield, and I'm sharing a signature class application Q&A that we recorded in February 2025 with several alumni who shared their insights about the signature class application process, the scoring and review process from the Board of Directors, as well as what the signature class is all about, so that you can get your questions answered and overall feel more comfortable making your application. Let's dive in. Today, we are going to learn more about the signature class application and scoring process. We're going to hear from various signature class alumni about their experience, and hopefully you're here so you can get your questions answered, and we are determined to do that as well. And so today, the bulk of what we'll be hearing is from our alumni guests. And so I want to introduce our alumni guests, and then I have a little bit of context and information for you, and then we'll get into a quick panel discussion. And so we have joining us today Lindsay Bauer. She's a graduate of Signature Class 46 and the Director of People and Culture for Keep Supply. Next, we have Monica Horton, a graduate of Signature Class 36. She's the CEO of Lenica Consulting and a City Councilwoman for Zone 1 with Springfield City Council. Next, we have Ryan Morris. He's a Signature Class 43 graduate. He's the Director of Leadership and Workforce Development for Cox Health. And we are also joined today by Aaron Shakora. He's a Signature Class 45 graduate and Executive Director of the Glow Center. So thank you so much for our alumni guests for being here. We are going to talk a little bit about Leadership Springfield. Some of you may be really familiar with the organization, but we always like to provide some bigger picture context to the signature class as it relates to all of the programming that we offer. Leadership Springfield essentially offers 4 buckets of programming. Our signature class is an intensive 9-month program. We're going to talk a little bit more about this, obviously, is the reason why you're tuning in. But the signature class is our longest standing program. It's also our, our full year program for adult professionals. Our access class is modeled off of the signature class, but it's for high school students. It's also a 9-month program. And then we offer a 2-day access class several times a year. And this is really that crash course in Springfield. It's designed for area professionals or people new to the area that want to really get that immersive, fast-paced experience and increase their network. And then we also offer support, connection, assistance, and advocacy for women in our community. So women who are founders, business owners, leaders of all industries and areas throughout the Springfield region. Rosie is a completely free women's advocacy network. So those are our overall scope of programs that we offer, but our flagship program is the signature class. The signature class has actually been around for almost 40 years. So in the mid-80s, our organization was formed. The signature class follows really like a school timeline. So we start in August and we end with graduation in June. And you'll see here the map or the flow of how the year kind of pans out. We have a mixer where we welcome the students and do some connection. And then we have a 2-day overnight launch retreat in September that's held at Hotel Vandevort downtown. And then every month between October and April, we offer 7 monthly all-day program days. And these days are the class's experience and opportunity to explore a particular topic, area, or industry and learn more about the community. And then we close with our May 1-day impact retreat. That is a full day, and then we graduate in June. And so Leadership Springfield plans and executes the 2 retreats. We kind of call them bookends. So we have our 2 days at the beginning and our 1 day at the end. And then our classes actually split up into strengths-based groups. And each of these months is assigned to a group. And our class participants actually, with lots of resources and planning and alumni guides who serve as advisors, our classes work in groups to help plan an experience for the rest of their classmates that is really specifically related to a topic. And we're going to probably talk a little more about this when we get to our alumni guests to share a little bit more about their experience. But the Leadership Springfield program is really an experiential learning opportunity. We believe at our core that leadership development and community engagement go hand in hand. So when we think about leadership, we know that when we are stronger leaders and we have stronger leadership skills and for our respective businesses, we are likely stronger community leaders. We lead in our own individual organizations with a community mindset, and we're making decisions oftentimes for the betterment of the community. And likewise, when we grow in community connection and understanding how our community works and how so many areas in our community are intersected and connected, we can consequently be stronger leaders for our businesses and in our lives as well. And so our programs really integrate this community engagement and leadership development in all that we do. So we will be providing, tools for leadership skills, and we also do a lot of community engagement and exploring the community in lots of ways. So that's a little bit about our programs. Leadership Springfield's mission is to inspire, develop, and connect leaders to serve the community. And so ultimately, the reason why many leaders choose to participate in the signature class is because they want to grow as leaders. They want to be inspired by others who may be in different industries or areas or perspectives or lived experiences than they are. And they want to connect with other people. And ultimately, they want to make an impact where they live, work, and play. And that is exactly what our organization provides. So our selection committee is made up of Leadership Springfield board members. Applications are compiled and identifying information is removed. So these applications are blind. We do not have names associated with applications. The selection committee scores each application based on community impact, leadership growth, impact on your peers in the program, and then quality of application. And some tips for a strong application before we move into our alumni panel discussion here in a minute. These are some things that we have found over the years are very helpful, as well as the data shows us that when applicants are following these tips, they are always 100% of the time more likely to get a high score. And so here are some helpful tips that may be beneficial to you as you are applying. First is to be authentic. Often applicants will say, what are you really looking for? What type of leader are you looking for? And very plainly, we're looking for you to tell your story. Being authentically you is exactly what we want you to do. We will have individuals who say, well, I've been out of the community, I haven't done a lot of networking, or my position or my work or my life stage hasn't allowed me to really be connected. And now I want to be, but I don't have a resume like someone else, or my application might not look the same as someone else's. And that's great. That is one of the most beautiful things about this class, is that we want everyone's story and them to show up authentically how they are. And again, to remember, our mission is inspire, develop, and connect to serve the community. And so if your story is uniquely yours, then tell it. And we want to know who you are. And those applications who really don't try to share someone else's or try to be like someone else, but really just authentically tell your story, is those applications always score better. This is not the time to be humble, so brag on yourself. We find that all applications that share all of the great things that they do are going to be more successful. Use specific examples when answering questions, and that kind of pairs with the next tip. Fill the space that you have available. Sometimes we see applicants who are very succinct and concise and straightforward, and they answer essay questions and other questions in 1 or 2 sentences. And what we find is we really want to challenge you and encourage you. A strong application is going to use examples. So similarly, when you may be interviewing for a job, you can answer the question plainly, or you can say, here's my answer, and this is my experience with that. Or here's my answer, and this is why. Those are the tools that you can use to help make those essay questions and your answers really paint the picture of how you are authentically, presenting your application. And then fill the space that you have available. We have character limits on every essay question, and we have determined that that length of characters is really the sweet spot for these people who are scoring our selection committee to be able to really understand your perspective. So those are on there for a reason. That's a goal, to get around that many words or characters. And then reflect and revise. Don't rush or do it all at once. We do find that applicants who start their application and rush it on the last day sometimes can score lower. That could be grammatical issues, spelling errors, or it simply could be that they really didn't have time to reflect and really make sure that their application overall tells their story. And so it's a good idea to start the application, save it. There's a process for doing that. Save it, come back to it, reflect and revise before you submit it. And then our last recommendation here is to have someone review your application. We have that ability. If that's something you're interested in doing, you can connect with our team, and we will connect you with a board member or part of someone from the selection committee who can, help walk you through some of these tips and give you some recommendations, as well as if you know another Leadership Springfield alumni or perhaps at your organization who might be willing to review it. Oftentimes what we find is that this tip number 2 is the area where people have a challenge. We sometimes don't love singing our praises as much as is required in this sort of application. So when you can have someone else review it, they can say, well, what about this? And didn't you do this? Or how about you tell this experience, or use this example? And those can really help your application be successful. Applications are open now for the signature class. If you would like to make your application, the early bird deadline is March 9th, and the final deadline is March 30th. In April, our board of directors will go through the applications. They will score them in a blind review process where all the names are removed. The classes will be announced in mid-May, and then the program itself will start in the fall, kicking off with a welcome reception in August. Hopefully this has helped provide you some additional information about the application process and dates for this year as we continue to hear some insights from our alumni panel. We're going to go ahead and move on to our alumni panel discussion. And Lindsay, I'm going to start with you. Every panelist is going to share just a 2 or 3 minute insight on why they applied for the signature class, their biggest takeaway from the experience, and how it has impacted their career, both personally and professionally, as they've grown in leadership in our community. Lindsay, we'll start with you.
Okay. Hi, everybody. So for me, I had just come off the heels of, I was really kind of in a career transition kind of mode, and had been in a situation where I was kind of just surviving. And I had joined Keep Supply and had this opportunity to make such an impact there that I thought, one, I want to make more of an impact in our community, and I'm not sure where to start. But also, Keep Supply had largely been kind of a secret until I joined, and I wanted everyone to know about it. So for me, this was like a twofold opportunity. I really, filled out the application because I wanted to understand more about, the areas in Springfield where I could help, but also kind of share my organization and everything we were doing there too. So what was the second part, Carrie?
Your biggest takeaway from the experience?
Oh, wow. So there were a lot of experiences where, if I had failed to be curious, then I might have kind of missed the impact. And so for me, my biggest takeaway is to always be quiet and listen and understand what's going on around you, and don't be afraid to have a difficult conversation about real issues that are facing people in Springfield today. We saw a lot of unfortunate circumstances. We also saw a lot of really positive circumstances. So, it's really important just to open up our ears and listen and understand where we can really have that impact and dive in.
And then lastly, how has this impacted your career and leadership journey?
So one of the first things we do is have to introduce someone else in front of this whole class of people that we've never met before. And I was literally quaking thinking about that at the opening retreat, but I made it through. And that actually gave me the courage to sign up to speak at a major business conference in September. So, that has kind of carried on with me and certainly appreciate that. The other piece I would say is just really leaning into my strengths and recognizing, everybody's strengths as well. So, but yeah, really participating in the signature class had impacts for me outside of what I expected because I built some really great friendships as well. But the confidence I gained from some of the just different activities we had and really the connections I made with my classmates has really kind of amplified my opportunities.
Thank you, Lindsay. Monica, I'd love for you to chime in here. Share with us why you applied for the signature class, biggest takeaways you have from the experience, and how it's impacted your career and leadership journey.
Thank you, Carrie, for having me. I'll just get right into it. So I had been living here for 5 years before I even applied for signature class. And I was going through a career pivot. So previously I had been involved in juvenile justice and I went back to school, Missouri State University, to get my Master of Public Administration degree. And so I was actually looking for opportunities to be able to serve in the public sector, but more specifically, even the nonprofit sector. And so those opportunities were able to present themselves. But I realized that I hit a brick wall. Sometimes after you graduate from the program, you realize that you have all this head knowledge, right? But there's some experiential things that you feel like you need to have. There's some connections that you feel like you need to establish. And so for me, I felt as though the natural step to continue along the pipeline of meeting people and to really getting a behind the scenes look of how this city works. Like I've, being a systems person and working in social services, you always think about, well, how are services working for the people? How does a city work? How does that interplay with businesses and industry and that sort of thing? And signature class was that and more in terms of showing that. And so my biggest why though is career advancement, but also just professional development. And I knew that there was an opportunity to meet new people. My biggest takeaway, I would say, was the end of program declarations. So it's one thing to write down all these grandiose ideas of what you want to do, but it's another thing to be able to declare that to your peers and say, hey, I want to do X, Y, and Z. And so for me, it was related to civic engagement and how I wanted to be involved. In some of the local programming and other initiatives here in Springfield. And so when you tell 40 other people, hey, I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z, they hold you accountable. And I hold my peers accountable as well in terms of when I follow up with them and be like, hey, did you reach out to that organization or are you now a volunteer with this organization or did you take that next career step and take that job interview, so it's an accountability thing. So I love that particular part where you make these declarations at the end in terms of what you want to do. Um, before I got um, accepted to be a part of Signature Class 36, I had already been um, I guess you would say, appointed by Greene County commissioners to the Senior Citizen Services Fund Board. And that was in 2018 when I became a Signature Class 36 member. But really, the explosion of opportunities happened after in 2019 when I graduated. Love the graduations. Graduations are always a big deal. And so immediately after graduation from Signature Class, I was invited to be on the board of directors for Leadership Springfield, which was a great experience. I was mostly interested in curriculum development, the committee in terms of the type of content that future um, class members was going to be participating in. So I really kind of dug my heels in there. But also, I had opportunity to be a part of, be appointed by the city council to the Mayor's Commission for Children. And at the time, this was, of course, 2019, right before COVID, everyone was talking about this program called Family Connect, which is a program that does home visits for new parents who are taking care of their newborns and offering health related prevention type of services and that sort of thing. But we had to shut all that down. And so fast forward 3 years later, after graduation from signature class, I was appointed in 2022 to the Springfield City Council to represent Northwest Springfield on City Council and Family Connect. At the time, now we were able to secure some funding for it, and now the Springfield Greene County Health Department is now able to deploy nurses to go into homes and provide support care for families with newborns. So that's a full circle thing. But also immediately after signature class, I'm 36, became the founding director of Ujima Language and Literacy for 4 years. And so just a whole host of experiences because my main thing, if you become a part of signature class, you are going to be working in a small team and you are going to be developing what is called a program day. And the program day is such a critical day because you're providing experience for your whole class. And for me, it was the civic engagement. And so naturally, you can kind of see how things have transpired after having that experience with my civic engagement day. So how this
Absolutely,
is,
right?
mhm,
Not just
yeah,
transpired, you are serving in public office, which is fantastic.
yeah. So
The
that's how it's
Yeah,
impacted my career in
yeah,
leadership journey.
I love that. Thank you, Monica. Okay, Ryan, share why you applied for Signature, your biggest takeaway, and how this has impacted your leadership journey.
Wonderful. Thank you, Carrie. I don't know that I can be as articulate as Monica and Lindsay, but I will certainly give it a shot. My answer for why I applied is probably the worst answer on this call, and it was because I had a really bad case of FOMO. All of my friends and people in my social network were starting to participate in either the access class or the signature class, and I just wanted to be part of it. So props to the Leadership Springfield team for the branding and marketing of what you all do. It's fantastic. But during that process of being interested, I did have the opportunity to speak with a couple of members who were in classes prior to mine. And one of them said this specific bumper sticker phrase that will probably always stick with me. And they said, this is a non-traditional leadership development program. And I thought, okay, like what does it mean by non-traditional leadership development? And what I come to know is that what that means is by being a community leader, then you could also grow your own ability to be a leader within your organization. And so that was my not so flashy reason for wanting to apply, and certainly glad that I did take the opportunity to apply and was selected for class 43. When I consider the biggest takeaway, part of the program that I just really love, I've lived in Southwest Missouri my entire life, so super familiar with Springfield, but we spent the entire year exploring Springfield, and I learned so many things that I never knew was in this backyard of a place that I've lived my entire life. And one of the things that kind of came to the forefront through this experience was my tendency to see a community situation or an issue and really make a really quick judgment of how there's a simple solution that might be attached to that scenario. But when we explore and we begin to investigate and we get really curious, the reality is there's actually a lot of complexities that come into making communities work. And so that would be one part. The other part that I might say is that if I'm going to truly develop as a leader, then I have a responsibility of getting involved as well. So instead of sitting on the sideline, being pretty judgmental or quick to simplistic views of some community issues we have, I now have a new responsibility and a calling as a community leader to get involved in those things. When I think about the impact that maybe it's had on my career, I just kind of reflected on even just this past year and the number and the amount of times that I've been able to just pick up the phone and phone a friend to somebody that was in my class, or somebody that was in my class that referred me to somebody else that referred me to somebody else to be able to serve on a board or to give me industry insight to what their organization does that had overlap with my organization, or many things like that. And that's a network and an opportunity that I would never have had outside of the ability to participate in the Leadership Springfield class. So that is not just I had this experience and the benefit was in the moment, but certainly still benefiting from those long-term relationships and networks that were built during that time.
Thank you, Ryan, so much. All right, Aaron, we have arrived at you. Share why you applied for Signature, your biggest takeaway, and how this has impacted your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So it would have been 2023, excuse me. I was, working at the city of Springfield, and I was kind of looking at what was going to be next in my career. I'd been in that position for a few years. I'd been working through the pandemic, and was starting to consider what I wanted to do next. And honestly, for me, Leadership Springfield, it's not something I was incredibly excited to apply for. It honestly felt like something I needed to do next. And I had lots of friends and lots of colleagues and coworkers, people I really admired and looked up to that had participated in the program. I'd heard all these really great things. But for me, I'm not somebody that enjoys like meeting large groups of strangers and doing lots of networking. To me, that doesn't always feel the most genuine. So I applied for it. And I did get accepted, and I was very excited to be a part of the program because I know how competitive it is, and I know how important it has been to so many people. And then I got to the retreat, and I was still feeling a little bit of anxiety and maybe a little bit dread, not 100% certain what I'd basically gotten myself into. And I ended up having a phenomenal experience. I'm incredibly happy that I let folks convince me into applying for the program because, like some others have mentioned, it's a much different experience than other leadership development. Even leadership development cohorts that I've participated in. It's very community driven. It's very relational. Everybody really comes and brings their genuine self, which I think is how you get the most out of it. And so despite not being the most thrilled applicant, I ended up being a very enthusiastic participant and a really, really dedicated alumni to telling people about that experience and how much the program meant to me. As far as my takeaways, I think the biggest thing that I took away through the experience of those program days, I'm someone that's pretty intentional about learning about the place that I live and the things that I'm involved in, the community that I'm a part of. I'm not from this area, so I thought I knew a lot about Southwest Missouri, a lot about Springfield from learning myself. But there was so much that I learned from the program that I realized I just would never have had access to that information on my own, because there are things that it's not, there's processes and things and programs and services that exist in our community that we honestly all take for granted. And learning how those things works helps us better serve the community, better connect people to resources and services, and better understand the issues that our community is facing and how we can solve those collaboratively. And then I think the last thing that I'll say, as a executive director of the Glow Center and as a supervisor now, I've been to numerous conferences. Like I said, I've participated in several leadership development programs, even different cohort models similar to Leadership Springfield. And of all of those things, this is the program that I'm funneling my staff and folks that I work with now that are earlier in their leadership development journeys. I'm definitely encouraging them to look into the Access class. I'm definitely encouraging them to apply for the Signature class program. Multiple of my staff members will be participating in the Access class, and I have folks that are applying for the Signature class program because I think in terms of the investment in their leadership development from an organizational standpoint, Leadership Springfield is going to be one of the best things that they can go through to become better leaders and better serve our community through the Glow Center. So we're really excited to have this resource here locally.
Thank you so much. I'm going to throw out a couple of answers to questions or pose some questions to you all. But in the meantime, if you have any questions to ask, you can go ahead and pop them in the chat. We had some questions from the people who have registered for today, wanting to gain a deeper understanding of the learning experiences offered and the time commitment and cost. And so I will share a little bit about time commitment and cost, as well as some broad overview of the curriculum. And then I'd love for you, our alumni guests, to chime in on the development and curriculum side as well. So the cost is $3,000. It is comparable to 2 graduate level courses. In fact, both MSU and Drury do offer credit for individuals who are completing the program at a master's, all the way up to doctorate level. So it's comparable to those 2 graduate level courses. We also offer scholarships that are up to 75% tuition. It does include 10 full work days. So that is 2 days at the beginning of the program in September for the opening retreat, 7 days for program days during once a month. And then the final gathering is in May for an all-day closing retreat. There are, as the nature of our program is to work also in small strengths-based groups to help provide a part of the experience for classmates, there are some additional time commitments that are included. The application does detail what those are. So if you'd like more information, you can look there. But oftentimes those meetings will be scheduled, always those meetings will be scheduled with the group that you would be working with. So between 4 and 6 other individuals in the class will be working together, and we'll determine what times work best, whether that's a coffee, a lunch meeting, midday, after work, Zoom calls. There's lots of options for those. And then to address the question about the curriculum and the content, Leadership Springfield and several of our alumni guests have shared this. It's a little hard to explain what leadership development you come away with, because truly the entire program and every element of it is guided by our curriculum committee, which is made up of educators and facilitators. And it's really outcome-based learning design. So we look at ultimately what we want those outcomes to be for you all as participants, and then we build out the content and the program that is relevant. And because of that process is constantly being maximized or improved. And so there is no class experience that is the same. There is new content and new curriculum being built every single year to respond to what's relevant in our community, what's relevant to the class participants that are in the room, and how to help build authentic relationships, learn about the community in a way that embraces curiosity. And I appreciate you sharing that, Lindsay, and that kind of takeaway from that content. So at the very core, the most simple answer is we are a strengths-based leadership development organization. So a lot of the leadership development is going to be Gallup Strengths, Clifton Strengths based leadership development. It is not a surface level, look at those. It is a deeper dive into strengths, and it's also looking at strengths-based leadership development from the lens of you as an individual, you as a professional, and you as a community leader. So not just you, but in the context of how can our community be a strengths-based community and help make impact together. We also are a part of a national association called the Association of Leadership Programs. And that association has some standards, and we follow that curriculum as well for leadership development. And it's called the Community Leadership Framework. And it's really about how individuals come together in a community to make impact. So we have some training there. I will open it up briefly if any of our alumni guests want to share some of the learning experience or leadership development that stood out to them without giving it all away.
I would like to add that just kind of like a skeleton, you mentioned curriculum. The Community Focus Report is a report that is developed every other year that looks at various domains and various industries within our community on the basis of red flags as well as blue ribbons. So blue ribbons in our community are what are our strengths in our local community, but also our red flags in terms of, hey, these are some areas that we want to improve upon, and we see opportunity where we can really coalesce and apply the collective impact model towards moving the needle. And so I think that when it comes to curriculum, a lot of your program days are going to be centered around topics related to research that has been done here locally in our community in terms of what we do extravagantly well and how we want to really build and expand that, and what we need to do to improve quality of life for all within our area.
Thank you, Monica. The community focus report is the foundation of the way that we explore our community. So we could, as an organization, say, these are the 10 things we want you to know about the community. But instead, we say, this is a resource based on data that already exists here. And we're going to explore the things that are great and the things that are challenging, and let you as a class really explore what's happening right now in these different areas. So instead of teaching you all of those things, we're helping you explore them. Anyone else want to share about curriculum content?
Not necessarily about curriculum or content, but I will go back to the time commitment and just say you really get out of the program what you put into the program. And so being present and making sure that you're allowing yourself the time to really participate, while it certainly taking a day out of the office a month can be difficult. My experience and also what I've heard others say is that sentiment is true for them as well. So if that's something consideration for you, you'll maximize what you get out of the program the more you're able to be fully present in the program.
Lindsay or Aaron, anything else to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that in terms of like the content and the program days, my class, and I think this is probably some other classes as well, we often refer to our program days as like adult field trips, because you get to visit some really cool places. But in addition to like some of the cool and like picturesque little like photo moments, like us going onto the tarmac of the airport and like climbing on all the like really expensive new equipment, which was really fun and neat. We also went into a conference room and learned about like future plans for the airport and like what how those things, those plans and the expansions there impact our community as a whole. So you get like some really cool experiences with a bunch of people that you're going to get to know really well. But then at all of those stops, you're also kind of diving into a bunch of information. Like we got to hear about what potential changes and expansions to the airport were happening like months before City Council did, because I happened to be at the meeting where they were presenting that strategic plan, and we'd seen it a year ago.
Thank you, Aaron. Yes, everything that we do has that learning, really curriculum driven. We're not doing anything without purpose. And so when we are exploring the community and it's fun and exciting, it is educational as well, really everything that we do. Lindsay, anything you want to add?
This speaks kind of to what Ryan said earlier. Like it's really easy to like, I mean, from a curriculum and a learning standpoint, it's easy to look at the issues in Springfield and go, well, we could just X, like we could just do this. But I think, you know, a lot of what we learned after digging into the community focus report and then all of us putting together our program days is it's never that simple. Right. So I think that was a big learning for me is, you know, it's not as simple as provide, you know, early childhood stuff. I'm not going to give away the whole program, but because there are all these competing agencies as well, and you don't realize that until like you really sit and you listen to the people that are living it, you know, on a daily basis. So definitely the exposure, I think, is probably the most valuable part of the curriculum.
Thank you. Okay, we have a question in chat. So this question is really, what about if you have commitments, work commitments, travel, and you know, how does that work with our requirements for participation? So we have two mandatory aspects of the program, and those are the September retreat and the May retreat. And those, it's mandatory attendance, and individuals who aren't able to participate in those can't graduate. However, the 7 program days between you know, October and April, we have an attendance policy that allows for up to 8 hours of missed programming. And so we also have an opportunity, because we run 2 cohorts of the signature class at one time, for class members who may be out of town one week might be able to attend the program day that they missed with the other class that's also running simultaneously. And 8 hours are acceptable. The thing that we always find in our programs is that communication is the best thing that you can do. So if you are applying and you know that you cannot attend one of the sets of dates for retreats, we would strongly encourage you to select the other class as your preference. But if you look at the dates and you say, oh, well, there's a travel here, or I'm concerned about this date and it's between October through April, we will absolutely work with you individually on that. And we'll communicate with you and would appreciate that communication back. And I'm pretty sure every single person on this call, as our alumni guests, had situations that were similar or came up, and we know that every single person in that room is a leader in the areas and the circles where they're at, and it is a time commitment, and everyone in that room is choosing to be there and present and focused. And so we do need your time, but also we understand that life and work happens, and we have a lot more flexibility in that October through April time period. And I think with that, we are going to wrap up. I'm going to let our alumni guests, if you can give advice in one, this is hard, I know, guys, one sentence. Could you give one nugget of advice? I'd love for any of you to share kind of your last nugget of advice for those who may be interested in applying. Anyone can go first.
I'm happy to start us off, and I'm just going to say something that Carrie mentioned when she was going over the application process. Take advantage of having a board member review your application. It definitely helps. It'll put you at ease as you're waiting to hear back that you didn't make any of those ridiculous errors if you have someone to look at it.
I would just say do it. You won't regret it.
I would say, as a person who actually looked at the applications as a board member, I think the advice to really brag on yourself goes a long way. I will say that there could be a bent towards, your eyes going through the Excel spreadsheet and like, oh, well, I know this person, I know this person. But it is a thing where, hey, if this is a person that I don't know, I want to see how they're putting their best foot forward when it comes to just what are they saying about themselves and how they're making an impact wherever they are. So bragging on yourself, I think, is a really, really big thing. Don't shy away from that. It's okay to brag on yourself.
I think I would add, if you are nervous or, like Aaron said, you don't think that it's your thing to be in a group of people and network, or you just have that pit in your stomach that you're just not sure, you're in very good company, because I can almost guarantee you that everybody on this call, from an alumni perspective, had that same experience, which tells me that you just need to do it, and you need to take that next step and complete the application process and see if now is the right time for you to participate.
Thank you, Ryan. As we close, I will just say we often will get people after their program say, I walked in and was thinking I'm an introvert. Not everyone, but some people, like, I walked in and I was an introvert and I thought I don't know that I'm going to like this. And I walked away with 40 close friends and tons of business connections that I'll use for the rest of my career, and so much more knowledge of my community and opportunity. And there's not a single time where that doesn't happen. So whether you love connecting with 40 strangers, or that is terrifying to you, that aspect, we just challenge you to not let that part of the program be a hindrance, because this program is not about traditional networking. It's building genuine relationships in a real way to make meaningful, positive impact together. And that's what we're creating, and we'd love for you to be a part of it. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you to our alumni guests, and we'd love to see your application.